Do you have big plans for making over a room in your house but lack a big budget to do it? Well, Leigh-Ann Allaire Perrault is here to show you that you don't need to spend a lot to make a big impact, and you can work with the pieces you already have. That's what she did with her living room. So, LA, why did you pick this room to tackle?
Well, my living room was really the forgotten space in our house. And I think a lot of people can relate. If you have a formal living room, most people don't use it on a regular basis. It was totally underutilized and actually over time became a catch-all for furniture that I didn't necessarily love or didn't suit my style, but I had an emotional connection to it, so I didn't want to get rid of it. So my husband affectionately started calling it the Granny Museum because it was a lot of outdated pieces. And I really crave the opportunity to make it into a space that I wanted to spend time in. And to do that, I wanted it to reflect my personality, have a little bit more function, and ultimately go from being really dark and dreary, which it felt before, to being light and bright. And I wanted to add a little bit of a fun factor as well.
Oh my gosh, you nailed it. And this was another project where you sold some, you kept some, and you DIY'd some, right?
That's kind of my magic formula. I love being frugal. To me, it's a challenge. So yes, I'm cheap, but part of it is the fun of seeing just how little I can spend without sacrificing quality or style. So I started this project by selling everything that I wasn't emotionally connected to. We had chairs that I sold online, all secondhand, in the secondhand economy, the airy rug, coffee table, lamps, artwork, you name it. A lot of stuff went out the door. I made a total of $900 from selling secondhand.
Wow.
And that money got reinvested right back into my budget. And with that money, I really focused in on what I could DIY, which led me to focusing on 5 projects that really made a huge difference in this space.
It's your cheapness and the fact that you do it with such elegance that we all attach to. This is why we love you. So you keep it up with the cheapness because you do it really well. You do it really beautifully. So I want to start with the walls.
Thank you.
They look amazing. Walk us through what you did there.
The walls were by far the most impactful in the most subtle way possible. It's weird to say both of those things, but I had this vision of a room wrapped in leopard print, a very tone on tone, so it is quite subtle. Let me tell you, when I told my husband I was going to stencil the walls in leopard print, he actually thought that I had finally popped the lid. He thought that I was crazy. So I convinced him because I told him that the colors, although the pattern's really fun, the colors would be really neutral. But the wallpaper I looked into was going to cost me over $2,000 just for the material based on the square footage for the space. And that certainly was not in my budget. I was not interested in spending that. So instead I went for the option that I mentioned, stenciling the walls. So I found a large format stencil online. I love using stencils and paint because then I could customize the colors to go with some of the existing furnishings that were already going to stay, which made them look like it was all meant to be. It all came together really nicely. The kicker is you do need a little bit of patience. A lot of people do a stencil on one wall. I decided to do all of the walls. That took me about 2 full days to accomplish. I think it was so worth it, but especially worth it because the total cost for the stenciling was only $250. So massive savings for me. And I have to say, the fringe bonus to this is I don't have to ever strip wallpaper. When I'm over this look, I can just paint right over it, which is awesome.
That is a huge savings. So basically from $2,000 to $200. That is a lot of work, but definitely worth it.
Right?
That is so smart. Okay, this is what I'm really interested in. You painted the piano. Tell us about that.
I have to tell you, this was one of those sentimental pieces for me. It was a gift from my grandparents when I was about 5 years old, and I have so many fond memories sitting at the piano with my dad tinkering on the keys, with my grandparents. They'd come over and I'd do little recitals for them. So it was a sentimental piece that I didn't want to get rid of. However, I didn't love the look of it. It just felt very heavy in the space. And I had thought about painting it for probably 5 years. And really it became one of my biggest procrastination projects. I knew I was going to do it. I was honestly just a little nervous about messing it up. And as I think a lot of people feel when they're going to tackle a paint project, I have to tell you though, for all of the procrastination that I did, this entire project took me 1 day because I used chalked paint, which dries so quickly, so I was able to finish it so fast. And it only cost me $100. And the piano alone has been transformed to a focal point in the space now that I absolutely love. I can't imagine the space without it now.
Oh, that is beautiful. Procrastinators everywhere can relate. We wait for 5 years and then we do it in 1 hour. Like, I don't know what it is. Painting a piano is a very big deal. So congrats to you, and it looks amazing. What other furniture did you tackle in that space there, Allaire?
Well, speaking of chalked paint, I had some leftover chalk paint from other projects, and I decided to give my inherited French provincial sofa and chair a really small update. Now, these were pieces that my grandparents originally purchased in the 1950s. Apparently, they came in a gold brocade finish, which then they had reupholstered into an olive green brocade. I remember that fabric very well because I have many pictures of me tucked on the sofa with my parents as I was a little baby. The pieces were then inherited by my parents, and my mom had them reupholstered in this, what I think is still so on point. Kudos to you, Mom, for picking a beautiful color fabric. It's this really nice greigey ultra suede. 20 years later, it's still in impeccable condition. So now that I've inherited the pieces, they didn't need reupholstering, but my small contribution to a DIY update was using some leftover chalk paint that I had. I mixed it all together, and I actually just painted out the wood trim to a color that I was able to achieve that was very close to the fabric color. This just kind of made them work as a solid unit, the whole piece, without breaking it up with the dark wood, and I feel like really lightened and freshened up the space. The best part, this project, because it was leftover paint, $0. Ah.
That's my favorite price. Okay, next you bought a desk.
Right.
Tell us about the desk.
So I had this empty corner in the back of the living room. I'd never really done anything with it. And when I talked right off the top about wanting to add function to the space, I thought, why not add a desk? Because although I have an office upstairs, I end up working at the kitchen table all the time to be on the same floor as the rest of the family. So I wanted to move, because it's not very convenient at the kitchen table, I wanted to move my daily emails to a little office nook here. So I found a hotel desk that I loved online that was about $500. Again, not in my budget. So I hopped into the secondhand economy and online found a desk for $20. It didn't look anything like what I had envisioned, but it had the right lines and the right shape. And funny enough, I ended up buying it from a gentleman who he himself had bought it from a hotel liquidation years prior, but never got around to DIYing it. So I was happy to buy it for $20 from him. And in just a day, using a furniture transformations kit, I transformed the desk for $175. So that was another cha-ching, big savings for me.
Beautiful. Now the showstopper. Let's talk about the dresser.
It's probably one of my favorite pieces in the space. Now, before in the space, I called it a very leggy room. There were legs on the side tables. I have legs on the furnishings, legs on the coffee table, legs on the piano. So I wanted a piece that was a little bit more substantial and also added some storage. So I knew I wanted some sort of small petite dresser. I also knew that I have always wanted a campaign dresser, but I didn't want to pay the price tag of the one I found online that was this beautiful high gloss lacquer finish at a price tag of $1,200. That was not in my budget. So I decided to go on the hunt for a little dresser that I could transform, and my hunt proved to be DIY frugal perfection, because I found this before dresser. It was a little pine piece for $0. Someone was just happy to get rid of it out of their house, and I was very happy to scoop it up. So I gave it a quick transformation using a spray lacquer finish, so I was able to achieve that really high gloss factory finish. And then I just picked up online some metal L brackets, as well as the handles, new handles. Now, the L brackets and the handles were different finishes, and I just spray painted them all in this beautiful antique gold finish. Once I applied them to the drawer fronts, it gave me that campaign dresser look. One day, my son helped me do the sanding, do the wood filling, do the priming, do the painting. So I had free labor as well. One day, $60 total for this piece.
Okay, give us the final tally, the final cost of this living room makeover. How much, Allaire?
Drum roll. So the entire investment I made for the DIY portion of all of those 5 projects was $585. So from my $900 that I made in the beginning, I had extra to spend on some furnishings and some new accessories.
I am so impressed. What an incredible makeover, Allaire. You were so good.